Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at our San Diego Comic-Con panel for the Master Chief Collection. We know we're the first panel slot of the day. We had to wake up early. We know you had to wake up early to get here. So it means a lot, and we're really glad that you're joining us. This is our second panel for the Master Chief Collection. We talked a lot about the game at RTX in Austin earlier this month, and we've got a lot of new things to share. So I'm really excited to get started, and I'll start by introducing everyone. My name's Andy Dudynsky. My friends call me Bravo, and I'm community manager for Halo at 343 Industries, and I've got Thank you very much. And we've got a lot of guys who can tell a lot about this project. So first up is going to be Dennis Ries. He's executive producer on Halo the Master Chief Collection and also served as lead producer on Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. Next up is Max Hoberman, the original online and multiplayer design lead for Halo 2. Max is also president of Austin-based developer Certain Affinity. Next up is Franck Balson, who works at Blur Studio. He's a director there. Blur is a studio that some of you might be familiar with. We're going to talk a lot about their work, but they've worked on things like the Halo 4 TV trailer, as well as Halo 4 Spartan Ops. And next up, certainly last but not least, is a man you all know, Franck O'Connor, franchise development director at 343 Industries. So as I was saying, we talked a lot about the Master Chief Collection, introducing the project, as well as introducing Halo 2 Anniversary specifically earlier this month. And what I'd like to do for anyone who might not have seen that panel is recap just a bit about the Master Chief Collection and how we're bringing all of these games together. So Dennis, would you like to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, right from the get-go, there's so much content in this offer, right? We have Halo 1 Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo 3, Halo 4. We have guaranteed access to the Halo 5 Guardians multiplayer beta, and Halo Nightfall, the digital series with Ridley Scott Productions. So there's so much content. And for us, we just really wanted to make sure that we focus on making sure the games are easily accessible, and that we make sure that that nostalgic element of what Halo is can be remembered by all the fans and easily enjoyed. And then also try to add some sort of new elements to it. So,
cool. We want to hop over to the build?
What's that? Okay, good. Great, there we go. So we have our main menu up here. Excellent. So right away you see, for us, we really wanted to make sure it was easy to launch into all these games. And the way that we were able to do that was by taking off sort of the user interface level or layer for all of the individual games and creating a single user interface that connects them all. And that really allowed us to do some pretty cool things so that you could just jump in here and immediately just start playing any game. Since they're all on one disc with the Xbox One, we were able to do that. And so as we looked and we started thinking about, we want to make sure people can have those same great memories that they were always playing. Back in the good old days, so we unlocked every mission. We didn't want to have to make people play through each game all again so they can get to those favorite missions that they love so much about each of their games. Well, when we did that, that opened up new opportunities for us to allow people to play Halo the way they want to play Halo. So if you out there love vehicles, you can come into, say, Halo CE Anniversary and just play maps, all the missions that actually have vehicles on them. So now you can really begin to customize how you want to play Halo. It gets a lot more interesting when you start applying that logic across all games. So suddenly you can have the incredible Master Chief Saga Marathon, where you just start from the first level of Halo 1 and play non-stop to the end of Halo 4. Yeah, seriously, dude. I guarantee a good portion of this audience is going to give it a try. Please take frequent bathroom breaks, please.
Have you done this, Dennis?
Yeah. I'm in test right now.
Yeah.
It's not pretty. No, but a lot of fun. I'm really excited for all the fans to begin to play, Halo sort of as they want to play Halo. And for us, that was really important to make sure we had this as sort of like a single experience. Well, campaign is only part of what Halo is. There's a lot more. There's also multiplayer. And multiplayer is, well, quite incredible with Halo, especially when you start to think about all of the maps that exist. There's over 100 multiplayer maps. We're talking every single map created for Halo, which includes all the PC versions as well. So when you start like cycling through some of these, it just gets kind of ridiculous. Yeah, it's a lot of maps. So making sure all of this content was easily consumable was important to us. And so, we wanted to set up a process where you go in, you search for a match, and then what it does is it brings, based on whatever game you love, in my case it's Team Slayer, but you jump in, you're matched with a bunch of people who also love Team Slayer, and then you get to vote on what version multiplayer you want to play. So if it's Halo 1 and everyone in your party wants to play Halo 1, you can do that. It's going to load up the original multiplayer from Halo 1. That's right, the original multiplayer from Halo 1, as it existed back then, never before able to play over Xbox Live until now on console. So this is pretty awesome. With all of those PC maps as well, then you can do it. You can play Halo 1 multiplayer with all your friends. When you're done, you'll come out, and then you'll end up going back and selecting another version of multiplayer. It could be Halo 3 or Halo 2. And it's just a seamless experience. So it's a lot of fun. We think the fans are really going to enjoy it. And we also had to make sure that we could do some other cool things, specifically around control schemes. One thing I know that Bravo loves, and made sure that I bring it up here, is the universal control scheme around Bumper Jumper. That's right. So finally, you can actually enjoy Bumper Jumper for all of your favorite Halo games. And you can actually have that same control scheme one right after another. Yeah. So for us, it was actually really exciting to sort of create a unified experience.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, really at the onset, when you looked at, as we mentioned, you're a lead producer for Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary as well. When you looked at that project and then looking ahead to Halo 2 Anniversary, what were some of those things right away that you knew that you wanted to do?
Well, so as we thought about, as we thought about campaign, we knew it was going to be important for, you need to switch to.
I think we're going to fire up a running build of campaign for the first time in a panel right now.
Yeah, that's right. So you guys are looking at Cairo Station. And right away for us, what was really important when we started thinking about Halo 2 Anniversary, the campaign, and remastering it, we had to make sure it played identical to the original game. So what we did was we took the original game code, just like in Halo 1 Anniversary, and we just sort of brought it right over to the Xbox One, and we hooked up two different rendering engines to it. So the original classic engine and rendering engine, and also a completely remastered next-gen rendering engine. This allowed us to do something what we call classic mode. So that at any point in time, you can hit the back button, or it's the view button on the Xbox One controller, and you can see what the game looked like 10 years ago. So here's what it looks like today, and this is what it looks like 10 years ago. Yeah, it's pretty significant. Now the awesome part is with the Xbox One, that switch is just instant, or just instantaneous. Thank you, Max. Or instant. And it allows you to really have no gameplay interference, whereas the 360 version of that version, is a little bit of a fade in, fade out. Additionally, we've added achievements. More achievements in this game than in any other Xbox game. That's 4,000 achievement points for this game alone. That's an incredible amount of achievements, and a lot of them have been changed and rewritten and make sure that everyone can have sort of a new creative way to play Halo. Additionally, skulls. Everyone loves the Halo skulls. They're hidden across the level, and once you find them, you can turn them on and you can modify your gameplay. There are more skulls in this game than ever before. There's over 30 skulls to change your gameplay. And then, of course, fiction. Fiction is always an important part here. So we found only the best partners to work with, and we really wanted to make sure that we told the Halo 2 cinematic story in a very creative and high quality way. And so we worked with Blur Studios. And so, yeah, we're really excited. We have Franck here on the panel to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Dennis. Yeah. I think we'll get to more about the fiction and working with Blur a little bit later in the panel. One thing I'd like to do, kind of thinking along that same thought, though, is talk about how retelling the Halo 2 story really provides an opportunity to connect all the experiences that have been in the past and also the ones that are coming. Franck, can you talk a little bit about some of the people in the room, I'm sure, caught the Halo Nightfall panel yesterday, and people as well, of course, excited about Halo 2 Anniversary and how that all of that even connects into Halo 5 Guardians.
Yeah, so this is obviously the 10th anniversary of Halo 2. I think you guys looking at the UI got some sense of just how much content is just in the game. But there's some stuff that we're adding to the story as well. We obviously have Halo Nightfall. The digital series comes when you buy Master Chief Collection. And what that does is introduce the character Locke, who some of you guys met yesterday. He's gonna play a significant role in Halo 5. So you're seeing his origin story in the Nightfall digital series. And that's kind of a character bridge. It's not a story bridge, but the guys at Blur, aside from remastering all the cinematics for Halo 2, are also creating some new cinematics. We call them bookends in the studio, but that does a disservice. It's going to be a bridging story that's going to connect in a fairly significant way the stories of the Master Chief Collection, and you think about that as the start of the Chief Saga, directly with events that are going to happen in Halo 5. And of course, you're going to get the Halo 5 multiplayer beta in that package as well. So in celebrating the 10th anniversary of Halo 2, we also get to span those stories and connect them all together in a really interesting and meaningful new way. So we're excited for you guys to see that in November.
Cool, thank you, Frank. I think another thing, of course, Dennis started to talk a little bit about it, and we talked some about it at RTX, but another huge part of the anniversary treatment is specifically that multiplayer treatment for Halo 2 Anniversary. And as we approach this 10-year anniversary, it's great to have Max Hoberman with us, not only as the original multiplayer and online design lead, but also as president of the studio that's helping bring Halo 2 Anniversary to life in a really big way. I'd like to start really at the beginning and talk a little bit about, I think anyone can chime in here. Frank, you joined the studio working on Halo, started working during Halo 2 development. And can you talk a little bit about just how big, I mean, Halo 2 was for multiplayer, how big Live was for Halo, and how big Halo was for Live? I think there's a lot there that we haven't talked about yet in the public, and I think it'd be really cool to start to tell that story.
Yeah, when I started on Halo 2 in 2003, and at that point I was working in the industry, but I was basically just a Halo fan, and I think if we polled this audience and asked people how much time they'd spent on campaign, the answer with Halo 1 is going to be anywhere between 8 and whatever, hundreds of hours maybe. But if we ask how many hours you've spent on multiplayer, it's disproportionately more. So in my head. And I wasn't quite this naive, but at least in my head I thought, well, they have to have a fairly significant multiplayer department because it's more than half of your experience is playing multiplayer. And I got there, and it was 2 guys, one of whom was Max, and that was the entire multiplayer organization effectively. I mean, there's shared resources, but that was it, and it was crazy to see the scale of how campaign creates the assets in the sandbox for multiplayer, but it was insane to me that the multiplayer team, which had been responsible for so much joy and fun, was 2 guys, and Max was right in the middle of really, I think it's fair to say, radically changing how you play console multiplayer games, and I think philosophically. And Max had a really hard time trying to explain this because there was no context for it. So he'd be describing parties and matchmaking. We didn't really have context for it because everything was server lists, and we was playing Mech Assault on the Xbox, and you were sort of finding people manually. And so Max was making decisions that were going to change how Xbox Live itself functioned. So we didn't even have the context to understand what he was really trying to do. But I think the way that he kind of bottled that idea for me was he was literally trying to take the fun parts of being in a LAN the social parts and the engagement parts and the friendships and the energy that's in that room and put that on Xbox Live. So he was trying to solve all these technical problems and all these design issues, but he was also trying to take these slightly undefinable things that you get from that social context of being in a basement LAN party blowing circuit breakers. And that was hard. Until you were actually playing it, it was almost impossible to properly contextualize.
Yeah, sure. Dennis and Max, I know you guys, Dennis, you have opportunity over the past few months working on this project to look at some of Max's design documents. You guys want to talk a little bit about those first goals of bringing...
Yeah, it was great being in your office looking at some of the original Halo 2 design documents and kind of what you had to do to explain what a party was. Just the concept didn't even exist, so you had some really cool notes and stuff like that in there. I thought it was really awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun time, and I think kind of to Frank's point, people forget that Xbox Live was so primitive at the time. We were really inventing things from the ground up. So just something as simple as having a friends list accessible in the game, that didn't exist. To check out a friends list, you had to actually exit out of the game back then. So it really started from the ground up, designing in the friends list. And the driving philosophy, like Frank mentioned, was this idea of how do we take this great LAN party experience and how do we take the best parts of this, take it online. You guys may have heard the term, which I think somebody coined at Bungie, but the virtual couch, and that was kind of our shorthand for this LAN party experience. But yeah, it was tough. It was incredibly difficult to convey the vision for what this was going to be because it was so different. With parties and matchmaking, you can see up on the screen some of the features that we introduced in Halo 2. And this stuff, it was so hard to convey this vision because it was so radically different than what people are used to. People are used to a game server, just go find a server and then hope your friends can get on that server with you. And we were really kind of inverting that and flipping it on its head. And even within Bungie, it was incredibly contentious. There was a camp that said, no way in hell I'm not going to have a game server, and I want to choose exactly what map I'm going to play on. This matchmaking idea is not going to work, to put it politely. So yeah, it was fun times. It was quite challenging. You can see up there on the screen, grab this shot real quick, but there's the friends list. Before you had it on the guide button, and you had it in this kind of universal format. Had to dedicate a controller button for that sucker way back in the day.
Nice.
And we had clan support. We had trying to think what was interesting or what was really kind of contentious. I know matchmaking was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, even pregame, the fact that you had a pregame and postgame lobbies, right, where you could organize yourselves with friends and communicate against the people you just had. Of course, communicate very politely about the match that you had just played. And
of course.
There's a lot of things that I think many of us, when we were first playing Halo 2, certainly took for granted, right? Then we popped in this disc, and all of a sudden we were competing with people that we used to have to lug our Xboxes and TVs over with, as well as competing with people across the world. So I think a lot of that, when Dennis started to tell me around the end of our RTX panel, he's like, hey, Max has this community background where he wanted to create this social experience where it's easy to find matches are great, and it really starts to make sense when you think about the framework of Halo 2 and Xbox Live.
Yeah, when I was working on the online features, I was to a certain extent, I was in a vacuum. I didn't really have a lot of direction. I did have a lot of community background. At Bungie, back pre-Halo days, I was responsible for managing the community for the Myth games online for BungieNet. So I had some experience, and I had some ideas, things I wanted to do, like parties was my own kind of crazy concoction. And then matchmaking was the one place where I actually felt like I got some creative direction from Jason Jones, actually, one of the co-founders of Bungie. And it was really interesting because his creative direction, when I kind of explained what we wanted to do with matchmaking, what Jason said to me is, all right, two things you need to be really careful about, two things you have to do. Number one is you have to make it so that it's like a candy machine. It's like, what do you mean? Every time, like a gumball machine, every time you put a quarter in, you get a piece of tasty candy. I'm like, okay, all right. And then number two, once you're in matchmaking, you need to make it easier to stay in than to get out. Make it easier to keep playing than to leave. So I took that as creative direction to heart and interpreted that, and that's why at the end of the match-made game, for instance, you stay in that group and another game automatically starts up. That cycle repeats itself automatically. that was sort of my translation of his very odd creative direction.
Thank you, Max. I think one thing that has become a tradition, and you guys should let me know if you'd be interested in this, but we've been revealing which maps we're remastering at each panel, and I think maybe we could do that again. Is that something you guys would like to see? Cool, Max. Max, I will actually let you do the honors.
I think we're about to make it a tradition. So yeah, we talked when we were at RTX. We were talking about the multiplayer maps and the fact that all of these multiplayer maps that were so popular for Halo 2, maps like Midship and Lockout and Ivory Tower and these others, they were all designed right from the get-go. And we had such a small team, as Franck was mentioning, that we really had to kind of get our plans in order and get them locked. And that's actually true of all of the maps except for one. Does anyone here know which one map we added very, very late in the game? Shout it out if you know it.
Zanzibar!
Tubestone, interesting.
What? Say it again? Zanzibar, I heard it. That's right. So we're bringing back Zanzibar. Very excited about that.
The original screenshot even?
Yeah, that is an old screenshot.
Yeah, that is an iconic shot. I think it's even a pre-release Halo 2 shot. But Max, we've got some concept art from your team back home showing off the new direction for Zanzibar in Halo 2 Anniversary.
Yeah, so these are just some of our concept artists at Affinity showing off some of these concept drawings, but you get a sense for what this thing will end up looking like. And I think we even have some screenshots, maybe, of a work in progress.
Yeah, this is a first look at Zanzibar in Halo 2.
Yeah, work in progress, keep in mind. Keep going through these. We brought a handful of screenshots here, and the last one's my favorite. But so yeah, and once you go inside the base, check this guy out. That's awesome. So it's super excited. Our artists are working hard to get this thing done, and it's looking amazing. It's just as fun as it always was. And I think you want to talk a little bit about this map?
Yeah, I'd love to. Whenever you and I get in a room, I feel like we end up talking about the original designs and how they all came about. And as you mentioned, Zanzibar was not one of the maps that was designed from the onset, yet it added so much to Halo multiplayer. Specifically in the fact that how it would work for asymmetrical round-based game types, and how that was a totally new thing never before seen in Halo. And I think sometimes even that is taken for granted as well. So we could talk about some of the goals that you had with Zanzibar, and also the fact that why it came about and why it came so late in the game.
Yeah, we had all of our maps locked, and then I think the last E3, if I recall, before we released Halo 2. Pete Parsons and Jason Jones came to me and said, "Hey Max, the campaign. There's just no way we can spend any time on E3. So multiplayer seems like it's in pretty good shape. So we need you to figure out what we're going to show at E3 this year. That's for multiplayer only. And keep in mind, I had a 2-man team. I think we were up to 3 people at that point in time. That was quite an undertaking to be responsible for our E3 showing." So we took a look at what we had, and we looked at all the maps, and we knew that we had a lot of really fun maps. We were having a great time playing them, but we didn't really feel that we had anything that really kind of showcased. Just put it simple, we didn't have anything that was really sexy enough. Anything that showcased some of the really cool stuff. Now we had some resources. We had some of the guys on the single-player team, the campaign guys, able to help us out. So we actually designed the new map. I think we did it, Chris Carney and I did the paper design for this whole map, Zanzibar, in over one weekend. That's it right there. That's the original paper design. When we really wanted to design a map for this One Flag CTF game mode, which I'd kind of dreamed up, and we had it working on some of the maps, and it was fun, but we didn't really have a map that was kind of designed from the ground up for this game mode, this asymmetric round-based game mode where you had everyone on one team, on offense or defense. So yeah, we decided we'd showcase this One Flag CTF on this map. You can see the red line on there. That's the original plan for the vehicle path. But yeah, that's actually remarkably close to what we ended up shipping, which is pretty cool. But we didn't really have a lot of time for iteration on this map, so we just dove right in, straight into production, trying to make a small map that supports Team Slayer, always a priority, but also One Flag CTF, and a map that supports infantry and vehicles in a really fun way. which we didn't feel like we had actually tackled previously. So this was one of the first ones that we felt really kind of nailed it. Lots of vehicle paths and infantry that has to cross the street, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell them your original vehicle plan for Zanzibar, the one that you ended up taking up?
Oh yeah, I was telling these guys earlier that I was looking through some of my old notes. It's been a while since I worked on this stuff, and for a long time I actually planned on putting a Banshee on this map, which was just crazy. I don't know what I was thinking. Would have been fun, but it was crazy.
I think it's also cool if we could talk for just a second and some of the things you've told me about really the design influence, taking even a step further back of asymmetrical round-based game types and how that provided a new experience, and also how that tied directly into Zanzibar, with the temptations for leaving the base and how it was really just an entirely new way to play multiplayer.
Yeah, there's kind of two things there. One is just kind of standard gameplay balance things. There's a lot of things we did on Zanzibar to, okay, we're going to design this asymmetric map with bases and people that can, hole up and sit around camping their flag with shotguns and rocket launchers and stuff. So we had to do things to try and counterbalance that. Things like put rocket ammo, for instance, out there. Entice the guy with the rocket launcher to come out of the base, risk his neck for some advantage. So there's a lot of that thinking that went into the map. But more broadly than that, with One Flag CTF, my mission on Halo 2 was really, a lot of fun, the fun of Halo multiplayer, but also really broad accessibility. And One Flag CTF was kind of born from that vision of, hey, if you only got 4 guys on a team, let's not split them up and have half of them on defense and half on offense. All right, let's get 4 guys all working together, coordinating with a single sole focus and objective. And that's just a lot more user-friendly, a lot more easy to understand and accessible. But that was our guiding light on Halo 2 in general. You can look at the matchmaking system and say, you push a button, you get a choice, a list of like 7 playlists or hoppers or whatever you call them, and pick one and go, and everything just happens really automatically. So, yeah, that was the guiding light on Halo 2. I think it worked out all right.
I do too.
Thank you, Max. Dennis mentioned earlier, talking a little bit about the work that Blur is doing. We have Franck joining us for the first time to talk about some of that. Frank and Dennis on the 343 side, at what point did we know that we really wanted to work with Blur when thinking about that anniversary treatment?
After the launch of Halo Wars, when they did all of those pre-rendered cinematics, is pretty much, such high quality, and they were top on our list, the first people that we contacted when we knew we wanted to do this work. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, cool. And Frank, do you want to talk a little bit about just the Frank and Franck? Talk a little bit about.
You have to be.
We put them next to each other on purpose just to confuse everybody.
Cool. You guys want to talk just a little bit about what this project entailed, right? The goals from the onset.
So,
Let's go. You should go ahead.
okay.
Franck.
Of course, like the goals and like the challenges were really to try to take what was pre-existing, all the badass cinematics you guys had in Halo 2, and like, okay, how can we plus it, but still stay true to like the original game? And of course, you have all the new tech that we have today. We can do motion capture, we can do facial capture. Animation softwares have become great and everything, and even like cinematography-wise, like we can make it look really sexier. And that's what Blur is known for, making stuff blow up and chicks running around looking really good and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we wanted to try to inject into those cinematics and make, the action parts even more exciting and all the emotional moments like even more emotional.
Yeah, right now on screen we have a few of the shots that I think some have been released and some have not. So while Franck is talking about a little bit of that, we'll show some of the assets that you guys are working on.
Badass Arbiter.
Yeah, and this is it's a little bit unusual in that it's not a one-to-one recreation for obvious reasons of the original Halo 2 cinematics. You can still play the Halo 2 cinematics in their original form, but because these are obviously high-quality, high-definition video, you're going to have to make a choice before you start. You won't be able to switch like you can in classic mode. This was philosophically unusual in that we aren't doing a one-to-one recreation. This is really a treat. This is sort of a reward for enjoying the game for 10 years.
It's our reward for making it. Oh, yeah.
Tartarus.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool.
And also, Franck, if you think about the sheer amount of cinematics that were in Halo 2, right? There's quite a lot of footage there to cover.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. This was one of the big challenges. We have close to an hour of footage in full HD and an insane amount of assets to wrangle. I mean, we have like close to like 60 different characters, 50 environments, 100 props and vehicles. And one of the thing too is that it's like the whole Halo 2 story arc is very much based on the characters and how they interact together and dialogue. So one of the main things that we really wanted to focus on was, okay, how do we make it so that, well, all the humans and all the alien creatures just have those emotions, read on their faces. So that's why, we used, great actors and 2 different types of facial captures, one for the humans and one for the alien species. And I mean, from what I've been seeing so far, it's looking pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. And Frank, from a story standpoint, I mean, I think one of the first things that I saw when this footage and these stills started coming into the studio, I think I speak for everyone. I say when we were just floored with how good everything looks. And one of the first things that I thought of was what this adds, in terms of storytelling and letting people really sink into the fiction.
Yeah, I think, one other thing, we're looking at the visuals. We're also re-recording all the music with the Skywalker Orchestra in a slightly more modern surround mix. So there's a lot of fidelity being added to the whole experience. And I think, as Franck said, it wasn't just a case of making everything better. It was, there's more modern cinematography going on. There's different staging of the shots. So again, if you could switch back and forth between the two, you'd see radical differences, not just improvements.
Right.
And I think that it does a great credit to how enjoyable the original story is in how much it's lifted by that process. So I think that you get to enjoy the nostalgia of having loved that story, and you also get to recognize how far things have come technologically and artistically over the last decade.
Yeah, I think we've got a making of video that Franck, you and your team put together specifically for this panel. So this has not been shown anywhere else, and actually will not be shown anywhere else. So we're going to go ahead and move to that in just a moment, right here.
It would be better with the music.
It'd be good if we could get that house audio.
Or maybe we could just mime it.
Ooh. There we go.
Boom. All right, let's give this a go. Round 2. So Franck, what we saw there was just going from the original into a near final, beautiful version of that.
We're still going to put a little bit of polish on top of that.
Yeah, just a little more polish.
Yeah.
I think we'll go to talk about a little bit about the cinematic process. I mean, what we saw there was just a little bit, I'm sure, of what goes on behind the scenes, but there's quite a few steps to recreating, like you said, nearly a full hour of footage.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, we're not gonna have like pictures for everything, but I'm gonna try to like condense it as much as I can because once I start talking about my job, I mean, you guys are still gonna be here in 2 hours. So despite the fact that all your characters were like already existing, we had to reconcept every single character's assets and environments in the whole game, just because we started with like the original game assets. And we needed to know what it was going to look like in high res. So that's the final model right here. So that's like the original asset with our light rig. And so that's basically where we started from. So we started concepting on top of that and iterating until we were like all happy with it. I mean, I think the Arbiter was a really great like example because like it needed to be fresh and new, but still like
and there's so many different versions of it.
Oh yeah, totally.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It really came in good.
So once this thing happens, like we concept everything, and then we just want to make sure that everything we have inside the cinematics just connects with the game. So that's why we need to make sure that all the designs are like cohesive. And if we take a look to like Sergeant Johnson a little bit better, just because he's like one of the main characters. Because he was a human, we were like, okay, we're going to go the mocap route. We're going to need to have like great facials, and so there is no other way for that than just like cast an actor that can do the body performance, the facial performance, that can act sitting. So there was actually a really funny story how we came to work with Damien. Is we were actually casting a lot of people, and then he just showed up at the studio to visit one of the animation supervisors, and we look at him and he's like, who's this guy? And he's like, oh yeah, he's an actor. Like, can you come? Can you just like read the lines? And he just like read the lines. We're like, okay, you know what? All the other guys, we're done. So this dude, we're like, okay, so this dude's like, oh, really? You mean like I have a job? Yeah, you have a job. Okay, great. and it's been hell since. I mean,
Actually, we have
Damien's
we have Damien with us. You want to stand up and say hello?
There he is.
I think, Franck, you were mentioning just that because you mentioned how about in Halo 2 it's so dialogue focused and emotion driven, and Sergeant Johnson probably maybe the person with the most expressions right in the game.
Oh, yes.
Especially in the face.
Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, and Damien is extremely expressive. It was very painful to animate because he's so expressive. At first I was like, whoa, I didn't even know a face could do that. And we were like, you know what, we really like your face, we really like your hair and everything, so how about we just shave you completely? So that's what he had to do. He had to shave his little beard and all his hair in order to be able to do a scan of his face. So actually, this should be a video.
We can get it to animate just like this.
If it's, there we go. So that's actually like the scanning process that we went through at Lightstage. It's like this crazy complicated piece of technology, but what you get at the end is basically like a really, really super defined model with like all the textures, how the skin reacts to the light. And actually one of the first character we tried it with was Hood. And the guys at Lightstage sent us back the model, like with their like rendered and everything, and we looked at it, and it was like disturbingly like real. It was like crazy. And then Damien's scan came in, and all the other actors' scans came in. We actually scanned, I mean, I can't remember how many, I think like close to 10 or 15 people for this. And so we're going to move on to the next one, which is basically once this has gone through like a lot of process, which is like modeling and modeling the rest of the body. I think this one doesn't have the hair yet, so basically it goes with like the hair, and we add like a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. And then once this is done, this is like kind of like a temp render to figure out, okay, is it too glossy, is it too reflective? But we need to know if this is going to work as like a final image. So the supervisor of the project did like a quick like comp, like adding all the bells and whistles, and I think it's the next image. There you go. And we were like, oh wow, that does look like Damien.
He's sitting right next to it.
Yeah,
I know.
This is kind of weird from our view up
From our
here.
view,
It's like side by side.
Although that does look like the sexier version of Damien. Yeah, sorry. Yes, more distinguished. So the next stage, once we have all those great models, of course, we model all the characters, all the props, the vehicles, all those like insane environments. I mean, those environments are so huge that it demands like a lot of work. But basically, once everything is created, then we have a step called rigging, where we put like bones and all that kind of stuff so that characters can move around. And in parallel, we do mocap. So I'm sure a lot of you guys know what mocap is. A lot of actors with like tight spandex suits and little reflectors on them. And this, I mean, what was really new and like hard on this project was the amount, again, like the volume of stuff to do. So we shot for like 24 days. 24 days of mocap to be able to create like the whole content. And what was really tough, and that's where having great actors proved to be essential, was we had to act to the original VO to make sure that the timing was going to be correct and that we could use the original VO on top of the actors. And because like your body performance is completely linked with what you say. So in that regard, we used the first facial mocap, the first facial mocap system that we use is like, you've probably seen a lot of making up, where you have like guys wearing helmets and like a little camera in front of them. And we use that for like all the prophets and all the brutes and the arbiter, all those guys, so that whenever they were going to say a line, it wasn't just going to be like, and those like mandibles moving and where it wouldn't make sense. Like everything actually works perfectly and syncs really well with the VO.
Yeah, you had mentioned also how oftentimes like you have the face acting, I think, but sometimes separate from, the actual motion capture, and how I can't remember which actor and character it was, but how you had to ask someone to.
Oh yeah, totally. So that's pretty much right after this. So basically, you do the mocap, then you bring everything into the 3D software. You create the layout, which is basically making like the blueprint for the whole project. And once this is done, we do the second part, which is another stage of facial capture for all the human characters. And for this, we use a different thing. I think you probably saw it into the video. At some point, you had the actress playing Keys. She was inside this kind of like time travel device. It's like this rig with like dark like neon lights, and actually they had to go like through an hour of makeup to put like fluorescent like paint on their face, and they looked like little Smurfs. It was pretty cool. So basically what it does, it's kind of like, it takes a scan of your face 24 times per second, and what you end up with is like the exact acting from your actor. But what was really tough was to sync the body movement, which, well, the thing is with this rig, you can't move. Like, if you move, every time you're like, no, he's moving too much. No, he's moving too much. You have to move less, move less. And so what was really funny is that at some point during the sequence we just saw, for Keys, she's supposed to run, and one of my comments to her was like, so I'd like you to run more, but move less. And that's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, yeah, it was, and so we had literally, we had Damien sitting on his hands so that he couldn't move. For Keys, I was like sitting behind the chair and like holding her shoulders so that they wouldn't move and they could like act. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Also, and then eventually you get to that lighting in FX, which was the last scene that we saw there.
Sorry?
Eventually you get to that lighting in FX, and that was that last.
Yeah, exactly. So this thing goes like to animation before we go into the lighting. We do animation. It's kind of like a 50-50. Like, we have the actor's performance, but it needs to be enhanced depending if you're like on a human or if you're putting it on the arbiter, because the movements are going to be different. And you can see that it doesn't always work. Like, for instance, like the little grunts, whenever we put the mocap on them, because their legs were so tiny, we actually had to get like one guy running through the whole freaking volume, and he would just run like 3 feet. So that's where we're like, oh, okay, we're just gonna have to keyframe those guys. Mm-hmm. But yes, once the animation is done, lighting comes in, and it makes it look from It starts from gray, and then suddenly you have like light and shadows and textures, and it starts looking real, and it's
think
just
also-
like freaking crazy.
I think also explosions.
And also, yes,
Yes,
and then
very-
effects.
Very important part.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, I think that's what Blur is known for, is like to blow shit up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're good at. And I actually think we brought.
I think we did. This is going to be a world premiere of the latest footage that you guys have brought, complete with a lot of explosions. So let's roll that.
In the event of unexpected shutdown, the entire system will move to standby status. All remaining platforms are now ready for remote activation.
Remote activation? From here?
I must get inside. Then mount up, Orbit.
Your pal, where's he going?
Earth, to finish what we started. And this time, none of you will be left behind.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
The chief is gonna jump in this tank, roll across the bridge, and blow up any inhuman son of a bitch dumb enough to get between him and the prophet of regret. Pull yourself together, because you're going with him.
Awesome. Thank you, Franck. I think leading up to the launch of the Master Chief Collection and Halo 2 Anniversary, we'll have some more tidbits to share as we get closer. And of course, November 11th, everyone will be able to play through that campaign fully remastered. Before we finish up, we've got a few things. The first of which is that after the Q&A, we will have a giveaway, which is going to be let me actually hold it up. Let's see. We'll have the details shortly, but this is an exclusive 1 of 4 Halo the Master Chief Collection, Xbox One. Only 4 were made, and this is actually lasered onto the Xbox One. So we'll have details after the Q&A if you guys do want to stick around. Be sure to stay in your chairs. But we'd of course like to thank everyone for coming. Later today, I think 12:30 at the Xbox Lounge, which is in the Hyatt, we're going to be doing a panel signing where you can also grab an exclusive Master Chief Collection poster that's only available there. You can meet all these fine panelists and talk to them. Maybe we'll probably have Damien swing by as well if he's free. He's free, so he's going to be coming too.
Oh yeah, he's free.
That's But I think with that, we're actually ready to get started. If you guys have any questions for us, we've got a few minutes for Q&A, so go ahead and line up at the microphones in the aisles.
First off, I just want to say great presentation. We appreciate it. And
Thank you, man.
my question is, are you guys going to be fixing things or leaving things that kind of made Halo 2 unique, like BXR and stuff like that?
So, since we're using the original game code, a lot of those things will exist. So yeah, we don't want to fix them. We want it to play like it did, 10 years ago. So that's been one of the pillars. We're trying to keep as much as we can the same.
Yeah, the one caveat I'd add is there's some differences that are forced on us, things like 16:9, the frame rate, and there will be things that introduce new layers of complexity into that. So we're, to Dennis's point, we're leaving the thing the way it's supposed to be, but there'll definitely be some sort of geometry changes and things that happen just as a result of the fidelity increase.
Yeah, I think it's also worth pointing out, like if you are a fan of the way the game originally played, that's all available in the original multiplayer. But Halo 2 Anniversary will be running on a heavily modified engine, and things like BXR and stuff won't exist in Halo 2 Anniversary. So if you kind of like either flavor of gameplay, that's going to be waiting for you in the game.
Hi there. I'm Serena Cortana, and I just wanted to thank all of you for all the work that you've done. I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for you. I'm transgender, and through Halo, I found the support and guidance I needed and the friends to get me through. And by just sheer coincidence, I started Hormones on the 12th anniversary of Halo 1. So I just wanted to thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey.
Hey guys.
Hey. Hello.
You guys are pretty cool, not gonna lie. I love everything you've done with Halo.
It's tough
ever.
to disagree. It is.
But I was going to ask, because Halo 2's Collector's Edition was such a huge thing, is there going to be a Collector's Edition of this with maybe the helmet or something like that?
We still have a lot of those helmets, so maybe we can put currently there's no plans for a limited edition. I think you guys are going to dig the packaging itself, and really this is kind of a collector's edition unto itself. I mean, certainly the content speaks to that, and I don't think, bluntly, you're going to get as much gameplay or content for $60 anywhere else this year. Whether you like it is a different matter, but no, at this point, there's no plans for a limited edition of that game.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
As myself and I'm sure many other people are wondering, do you have any plans for a PC release of Halo 3 or the Master Chief Collection?
Well, we have nothing to talk about right now. I mean, it's the type of thing where we're doing a lot of this because the fans keep asking for it. And, you know, if the fans want a PC release, they should keep asking for it. But we don't have anything to talk about right now.
We will. Thank you.
Hi, Halo Nightfall and the new characters look amazing, but I'm a huge fan of the novels, and I was wondering if we'd see any more of remaining Spartan 2s or Spartan 3s that come back.
First off, I love your accent.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank.
Very, very sexy and compelling. Secondly, the original Spartan 2s are, well, you're going to see one of them for sure, Master Chief. But they're a thing we're fond of, and I bluntly don't want to give away any story spoilers for what we have planned for the historical Halo characters. But there are a lot of really interesting things related to your question that are going to become apparent in the next year or so.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
About what you said recently, I was about to ask for a PC version too, but I have another question in mind. You guys are doing an incredible job remastering these games and really respecting, obviously, the original source material. Did it ever occur to you, like, you're making Halo 1 and 2 look absolutely amazing, and then Halo 3 is probably looking like a 2007 game, like, in comparison?
So I was playing Halo 3, the build that came in on Friday.
Right before we left.
And so, sure, it looks like the stuff that was built for the Xbox 360. But what I've noticed, especially with Halo 3 and Halo 4, is there's a lot of detail, and not just pixel detail. Like there's animation detail that's popping out at 60 frames a second that was built into the game that just was never demonstrated. And so I was in the jungle, the beginning level of Halo 3. And there's absolutely new light coming through foliage in different ways, and this was all just in there, and the fidelity is really singing at this point. And I don't want to oversell it. Both of those games were still built for the last generation of hardware, but I think that, bluntly, Halo 3 and Halo 4 in particular wouldn't benefit from the anniversary treatment anywhere near as much as the OG Xbox stuff. So I think you're going to be really pleasantly surprised by how the campaigns on those look at 1080p and 60 frames a second.
It's definitely going to look a lot better and play better on the Xbox One.
Yeah, something I noticed as well, just even things like on the fist of a Spartan, you'll notice the overshield actually has this thin glow that I don't think was ever seen on Xbox 360. So it's
Again,
cool.
the rack slide animation on the pistol, and there's loads of things that just pop out that were there, but were hidden by the fidelity at the time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. You said you're remastering or re-recording the soundtrack, and of course that's a huge part of the series. Everyone remembers, firing up Halo 1 and 2 the first time and hearing, da 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 da. I didn't tone deaf, but So, any chance of including an isolated score? So just turn down the TV, crank up the stereo, and enjoy that at all? Or?
That is, it's certainly possible. It's not on the docket quite yet, but we've had that discussion internally as well, and we'd like to make it available as a standalone thing. But we just have to finish the game before we start worrying about the discrete components of it.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot more about audio coming up soon as well, probably around Gamescom timeframe. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question about Halo 1 multiplayer. If you're bringing back the multiplayer as it was, is the infinite ammo glitch still there? Because it seems very detrimental to the entire gameplay.
Specifically the rocket infinite ammo glitch?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things, like looking at, as Dennis started to speak to, and Dennis and Frank, you should chime in as well. There's a lot of things that are intricate to the gameplay. I think there's often you have to draw a line. You know, do you cut off back reloading and things, or what do you keep? So I think largely for Halo 1 and Halo 2, in classic mode, there's a goal to have the experiences play as they did.
Yeah. So likely that would remain. If it's in the original code, we're trying not to touch that code, except to make sure that it runs and operates really well on the Xbox One. But glitches like that.
I think this is it's a really weird question, because back in the Halo 2 days, for example, we tried to not expose, things like BXR and stuff, because they gave people an unfair advantage. I think our approach this time will be a little bit different and pretty opposite. And where there are things like fun glitches, we're going to try and explain how those work to people so that they're not in the dark. And there's like 5 jerks on the other team not telling them why they have infinite ammo. And so we'll be doing some education on some of those glitchy things. But I think that bluntly, that was a difficult conversation in the first place, because for every person who's irritated by it, there are like 5 people who love that stuff. And so we have to serve 2 different audiences as well as we can. So I think education is certainly going to be some of that process.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering about in Halo 2 how you could use dual SMGs, and that was a really cool thing for me to do, just firing 500 bullets into somebody. But I was wondering if you would bring that back in like a later Halo game.
Well, dual wielding is part of the Max's 6 remastered Halo 2 anniversary maps, and in a lot of ways it plays like, it does exactly play like a very modern version of Halo 2 with most of the Halo 2 functionality. So the answer is yes for that. And in the future, Halo 5 and beyond, there's currently no plans to put dual wielding in Halo 5, I'll tell you that. But it's not impossible in the future, but no plans at this time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Probably got time for a few more before we give away. Actually, I'm being told we have time for one more before we give away this console.
Hey, you guys. Thanks again for everything you do. Halo is awesome. My question is, after the success of Combat Evolved Anniversary, when did you guys, maybe specifically you, Frank, when did you know that you wanted to take this concept of reviving the game beyond Halo 2, but to Halo 3 and Halo 4? When did you know that was something you wanted to do?
Bonnie Ross, who's hiding in the audience somewhere, lamented when we were working on Halo Anniversary that we couldn't put all the games on the Xbox 360. 2 of them were on the original Xbox. We were putting Anniversary on the 360. And having that whole collection and that whole experience of the Master Chief's story on one console would have been great. And so when the discussions about what we would put on the Master Chief collection came up, that was really the driving principle behind it, is put the entire story on one console. Not just so that people can go 1, 2, 3, 4 and then move on to 5, but so that they can finally have this thing that they've sort of grown up with, all in one place, and enjoy it, from one box at a higher fidelity than ever before. So really, the real answer is during Halo 1 Anniversary is when that was first discussed.
Cool. Hey, thank you. I'd like to thank, of course, all of you for joining us this morning. I'd like to thank Comic-Con for having us. It's been great. I hope you guys enjoyed it.